Hello. I've just come from the church.
You are welcome.
And the priest told me that you speak English and that you might be able to help me.
English, but not very well. I'm speaking English, yeah.
Okay.
I can tell you whatever I know from my father, from my grandfather, and because they were priests.
Okay.
And my grandfather, he built the church.
I'm interested in the story of the wedding feast at Cana. Who were the guests?
The citizens here from Cana, and they were Jews at that time. Yes, all of them. And Jesus came with his disciples, with his mother, you know, here, because he was invited. And we think, we are sure that he was a relationship between him and between the people here, or the
people getting married?
Yeah.
So Jesus was a relative of the people who were getting married?
The relatives of his mother, Maria.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. Not me, that you are sure, because he was invited here.
The biggest clue to what was really taking place is in the Bible itself. Although the Gospel writers did their best to write the family out of the wedding feast, in the very next verse, it says, Jesus went down to Capernaum with his mother, his brothers, and his disciples. So they all were there. It really was a Jesus family affair. Although the editors of John's Gospel were able to write Jesus' family out of the wedding feast, they forgot to change this one crucial verse, and as a result, allowed us to decode what was really taking place. I have already revealed how both Jesus' closest companion, Mary Magdalene, and his mother Mary had their stories changed to suit the new movement. I now want to show who Jesus' blood family really were, and how I believe they played a crucial role in the founding of Christianity.
Family must have been quite large. We know that Jesus had 4 brothers. We know he had at least 2 sisters, perhaps more. If you begin to think over 2 or 3 generations, the numbers of descendants simply of that immediate family of Jesus must have been quite big. So the family isn't only the immediate family of Jesus, but also cousins and presumably their descendants too. So we're talking about quite a lot of people.
For 2,000 years, the traditional Christmas story has stated that Jesus was born in Bethlehem near Jerusalem. But many scholars are now convinced that Jesus was born here in Galilee. And now there's even an alternative site for his birthplace.
Aviram? Yeah. Good. Pleased to meet you. Pleased to meet you.
Israeli archaeologist Aviram Oshri has spent the last 14 years investigating what he is convinced is Jesus' real birthplace.
So what is there to see?
There is nothing really to see nowadays.
Nothing?
No. In 1965, the road was built, destroying the main hall of the church, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And in 1992, when they constructed the new neighborhood, the infrastructure, the sewer pipe was cutting through the church and through the ceiling of a cave.
So the road's been built on top of it?
Yeah. So they've cut through the main hall.
During these major building works, the remains of a 6th century church were discovered, which Aviram is convinced marks the birthplace of Jesus.
Now we are in the church. It's about 45 meters in length and 25 meters in width.
Right.
The interesting thing is that the church was built on top of a cave, a natural cave, and there is only 2 possibilities of explaining the phenomena. The first, it was just accidentally, by pure chance, built on top of a cave. And the second is that it was deliberately built on top of the cave, and that place was the genuine place of nativity.
The traditional Bethlehem is also 90 miles away, a 4-day journey from Jesus' hometown of Nazareth.
So when in the Gospels we hear the story of Joseph and Mary traveling to Bethlehem in order to register for a Roman census, you're saying that that story needs to be challenged and questioned?
Exactly. It's a myth rather than the genuine story. In addition to all that, We have the description of Mary traveling on top of a donkey while she was 9 months pregnant from Nazareth to Bethlehem near Jerusalem. It's simply not really making any sense that she could make that kind of journey on top of a donkey.
At 9 months pregnant?
At 9 months pregnant. Whereas the distance from Nazareth to Bethlehem of Galilee is only 7 kilometers, 4 miles.
And you think the people in the 6th century and before knew that, and that's why they built this church?
Yeah.
Do some people have vested interest in maintaining the idea that Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea?
Yeah, no doubt about that. The whole idea is that Jesus is the Messiah. And according to the Old Testament, the Messiah should come from the house of David. And David's origin is from the other Bethlehem, Bethlehem Ephrata. So that is why Jesus was forced to be born in the other Bethlehem.
To make it, the story fit?
Yeah.
I believe the historical evidence now points to Jesus being born and raised in Galilee, because it is here that his family lived. In the early 1960s, a Franciscan archaeologist called Bagatti went on a journey around Galilee. He wrote a book about his travels. In particular, he was looking for the villages in which Jesus' family lived. He was guided by a famous early Christian writer.
Julius Africanus, who was a Christian writer of the early 3rd century and lived in Palestine, tells us a very interesting fact about the early members of the family of Jesus, whom he calls the desposunoi, which means people who belong to the master or the sovereign.
Those called the desposunoi on account of their connection with the family of the Saviour, coming from the Jewish villages of Nazareth and Kokaba. They travelled around the rest of the land and interpreted the genealogy they had as far as they could trace it.
Nazareth and Kokaba, which is a few miles from Nazareth, were evidently where the family were based. The name Kokaba means star in Hebrew, and it's possible they deliberately chose a village that had this name Star, which was one of the symbols of the Davidic Messiah. And they probably also connected the word Nazareth with Isaiah's prophecy of the Davidic Messiah, and he calls him the branch or the shoot. Hebrew word Netzah, Nazareth.
2,000 years ago, the city of Nazareth was just a tiny village. Today, one of the largest churches in the Middle East has been built over what is, according to the Bible, Jesus'